Oh, baby, welcome to the Nimbasa City League Season 13 Flaaffy Division Power Rankings. I'm assuming 99% of the people watching this are just from the league. I mean, I'll upload it like to the normal channel anyways. But just quick preamble, NCL is tiered, pointed tiers league with a bunch of complex unbans. So you're gonna see some crazy mons. I'll try to like reference what the complex is if it comes up. But it's basically the whole draft is tiered and points at the same time. So like you still have to draft like tier one, tier two tier threes, tier four, tier five. No forced mega, which is new this season. But then you also have like a budget, and each tier has its own like range of like plus, normal, minus, where you get extra points if you're drafting the worst stuff. Whatever, who cares? And then other preamble stuff. So just the way I do power rankings, I do have like a little score based algorithm. That's like not the right use of that word. I give categories points, and then I weight those points. Everything's out of 10, and then you get like a final score. So I won't go into depth on like what the points of each category is. Like I'm not gonna be, this team got an 8.5 out of 10 on speed tiers. Like it does there's no point in doing that because it's all just like contextualized within my own like ranking. So I'm trying to be consistent. So it's like you may give yourself a 9.5 out of 10 on your own speed tiers, but like I'm thinking of like, well, if you had perfect realistic speed tiers, you could get a 10, but then like you would be giving up so much else in your draft just to like force that like you'd probably be missing a ton of bulk and stuff like that. So like, it just doesn't, and the mons to fill out those features just wouldn't be available most likely. So it's I'll go over what the actual score is, but like overall. But other than that, all the drafts are like relatively well made. So there's a few like meme theme drafts going on here, but like no one drafted horribly, so it's really just the points really just allow me to kind of like tie break and kind of shift around. Like you could do like a tiered power rankings where it's like, oh, here's S tier, here's A tier, here's B tier, and then it'd be difficult to kind of tie break. You would just be looking at teams compared to each other, which doesn't like really make sense. But then of course PRs, I'm not taking into account coach skill. I don't know half these coaches, anyways. A lot of new faces this season. So hey, 2.5 minute preamble. Let's get into the first team, which is the last team. In 16th place is the Adelaide Overheat, coached by Jed. So, like I said, none of these teams are bad. This is just kind of like the one of the least cohesive teams. The first thing you'll notice is it's the Regenerator meme draft. He didn't quite go for Aldino and Cloth, so it's not like the ultimate regen. He did try to like save a little bit of a face here. One of the best things about this team is you have a regen core, which is like a synergy, and the Terra types are pretty nice overall. I don't really have an issue with any of these Terra types. I think Steel, Word, and Frost is a little bit like weird. I don't know what you're trying to accomplish there, but everything else, I wouldn't say like these are some really good Terra picks. So those go in his favor. The main issue is like hazards. You basically don't really like have any. Um, I guess G King does get toxic spikes, which is fine. And then you have Wormadam as your rocker, I think, which is just like, that's rough. The speed is a little bit awkward. You have two 121s, and then a 105, 100. A little bit weird, and then you drop from 192 86 75. So like that much is fine. So the features aren't bad. Just like I said, there's a little bit of like weirdness there. You do have Shedtail Cyclizar, which is great. You have a lot of good pivots on here. You have G King pivot, Mianzhao pivot, Lokix pivot, Cyclizar pivot. So like lots of good things going on there. Only other issue I would give is like special attackers. Like Tangrowth has base 110 special. That's great. Tornadus T and G King are your special attackers. Everything's base 110. So you don't have like really good special breaking. You would rely on Nasty Plot, either Tangrowth or like Nasty Plot or Calm Mind G King to kind of get your special attack going. But the setup is pretty decent, and the synergy is funny. So like the team isn't horrible. The overall score was 77.8. So you're averaging just below an 8 out of 10 on every category, and like that's good. Like no one's really like the only 10 out of 10s I ever give out really is just like typing. Like it's not that hard to draft one of every type, and it doesn't necessarily help you out that much. So and that's not like weighted very high. It's just like it's kind of like a bonus. Hey, you draft every type. Here's a little bonus. Because at least like you have you end up with the option to do stuff. Because at the end of the day, like what I'm ranking, the preamble, I'm going back to it. What I'm ranking is really just your ability to build out of any situation, right? If you have good enough speed tiers, you can control the speed of the battle. If your opponent has really good like special defense or just bulk in general, if you have good setup or good breakers, you can break that team. If you have good defense, you can stop breaker team from sweeping you, right? But then of course, like the more you spread out these rules in these categories, the more like diluted they get. So you can have like good breaking, but that doesn't mean you can break a really defensive team. If you had amazing breaking, you could. But you're giving those things up, like just to get it done. So whatever happens, like it's just kind of the overall cohesiveness of the team that we're looking at. And of course, the team is going to be a little bit awkward. Jed, I'm sure can pilot it to some wins if he so pleases. So I don't. This isn't the best like transition. In 15th place is going to be Zeb Strike 'em Down and the Santa Fe Superiors. That doesn't seem right. The Super Zeb Strikers. What happened to me? All right. Well, I didn't say this shit was professional. Hey, I fixed the names. I had them wrong somehow. So hey, it's the Super Zeb Strikers. So this is obviously like the hardest rain team you've ever seen. Like, you literally has 4 Swift swimmers, which is just out of control. But it's like it is too much. I mean, anyone can agree. Like you don't need 4 water type Swift swimmers, and especially that almost none of these really function outside of rain. Like Full Soul, it's like it's fast out of the rain, so it doesn't even really need the Swift swim. And it's like his only like grass type out of the Swift swimmers to break the things. Like Bestial Legion, it can run like Scarf or even adaptability, but you want it to have speed. Swampert, it really needs the rain. Kingdra, it's not a very good mod to begin with, and it also needs the rain. So it's just like the second rain goes down, like you're in a bad spot. Like you can draft weather cores and have the mons kind of function outside of weather. Like Heliolisk, it functions outside of rain. It doesn't really need it. Ferrothorn functions outside of rain. It doesn't really need it. The rest of the team, it's just too much. And of course, like the rain synergy, if you have a good rain matchup, like it's probably just gonna win, battles on its own, just from speed control and massive water hits. Like that's how weather works. Like you're just gonna win games on matchup, which is nice. But it's a little bit tricky here. But I mean, he went for it, right? Yeah, you have Hurricane Abusers. You have like Hatterene is kind of like nice to like I don't know like Trick Room for Ferrothorn. Like it's just weird. But like Naga is cool. I don't know how. I don't think Naga is very good. I don't think it's even that good with Nasty Plot. But maybe I'm stupid. I think Naga kind of wants like screens or something, which team doesn't really like do that I'm aware of. I mean, like any team can kind of run a screen or two because monsters like get them. But overall, I mean, like the breaking is going to be very good, and that's about it. It's a rain team. He didn't leave me too much to talk about, so we'll just we'll move on here. Up to 16th. This is just ignore that this is not smooth. In 16th, hey, it's Santa Fe Superiors. Did anyone like predict that by me having the name switch? So here we have the Lunala team with massive Wish Pass, because Lunala is not allowed to run recovery and it's not allowed to run heavy duty boots. So presumably what you would do is then run Wish Passers to heal it up and then decent removal to keep it going. And that is pretty much what happened here. You have Spin and Defog that's moderately reliable, and then you have 2 Wish Passers and Umbreon Licky. So you drafted this energy for Lunala. The problem is like the rest of the team isn't like really great. There's no Sneasler enabler. Not that it necessarily needs it. It can run like Normal Gem Fake Out or White Herb Close Combat, but it does prefer to have the option to just do the same thing Halucha does and just switch into a terrain and just pop up. I mean, you can run manual like Misty Train and Amorous. And then just like, you have Umbreon, Gligar, Licky, very passive mods. You have Gumshoes and Carnivine, which are obviously just because the team's a little bit top heavy and those are just filler. They're not actually doing anything. Like gumshoes can do stuff with like stakeout or adaptability. Like it can hit hard, but it's very hard to position to do that. And you don't really have like trick room or something to potentially kind of get it to pop off here. So it's just like the team's just like a little bit weird. The hazards themselves aren't amazing, but I guess because you're relying on defog or removal, like it doesn't. You're not trying to get your own hazards up too much. And just the roles are very like one dimensional, right? Like Licky, Umbreon, or Wish Passing. Blackguards, bulky, U-turn, roost, earthquake, hazards, whatever you need. Regieleki, maybe screens, or just like, electric and ice move. The Terras here are also like pretty good. I don't really have any issues. I think I prefer Water Scizor. The Steel is nice, obviously for Bolt Punch skill and stuff, but I feel like this team is like because Enamorus and Scizor just like stab hit hards. I think that's a little bit awkward, but like at least the Terras are really good overall. Those I can't like argue with. They're just like that's a slight preference for me. So it says I think I didn't say this is Arthur as the coach. I think I just said the team name because I'm not familiar too much with Arthur. I'm sorry I wasn't familiar with your game or with the basketball meme. But yeah, it's very good offense on this team. Obviously, like look at those attack stats. Special attack, you have Enamorus and Lunala, which is about as much as you really need, anyways. So I'm not gonna knock it there. And we'll move on to 13th. Did I say this was 14th? Did I like correctly say that number? I'll put a little bit of editing. Ooh, spicy. To give whatever it's called, like the ranking and the overall average score. Because I haven't been saying the overall average scores, but they'll be on the screen. Fuck it. In 13th, hey, guess what? It's the Uppsala Umbreons, coached by Sven. So this is a meme draft, and you can kind of tell here with all the sprites up. If you had to guess the meme, you would just be like, well, it's not monotype, it's not mono this. It actually is a monotype team, but it's mono color. It's Pokédex colored black Pokemon. So if you just saw the team before it, took Umbreon from him, but Umbreon dark type with Wish very much works with Lunala, so it definitely wasn't like demonry on Arthur's part, despite Sven like talking in the normal Discord chat about what his theme is and asking people not to take black colored mons. Just not the best plan. But Sven is hilarious, good guy. So main draft, no Umbreon was huge, and then the removal and the bulk overall aren't amazing. I mean, you have Dustoir, which is nice. You have Colossal, adds a little bit to it. Other than that, I mean, yeah, like Quillfish, also nice. Actually, the bulk's like pretty good, but it's not like reliable bulk, I guess. Only Necrozma is really healing, and you can get like Pain Split with Dustoir. So like you're getting chipped down with this team, and you run into issues, of course, with like weather preventing Necrozma from fully healing, or if you just want to run like a Dragon Dance set. I do really love Necrozma. I think Fairy Necrozma is just gonna carry this team on its back like easily, and obviously Sven's a very good coach, so PRs don't really reflect that, of course. The Zygarde 10% does get Power Construct. It just can't run Rest. So if you heal, you can't get it back up without outside healing. And of course, the only like Wish Passer would have been Umbreon. So I hurt him there, but he made it work otherwise. And the team has an insane setup. Mawile, Neck, Snorlax, Zarude, all have physical setup. I think Quillfish can Sword Dance if it wants. You have Zygarde, Dragon Dance, Weavile with Sword Dance. You have Xurkitree with Nasty Plot. Of course, the special attack is a little bit hurt here, but you still have Necrozma with Calm Mind, special attacking. Sigilyph can do stuff if it really needs to, and then Xurkitree, obviously 173 base special attack that's broken, and yet it doesn't do that much. Kind of crazy. Terras here are also pretty good. I don't really have too much issue with them. Obviously, Zygarde is going Steel to hope it lives a hit and then like transform. I don't know if Fairy Weavile is amazing, but I'll take it. I guess like physically bulky fighting types, it could be nice to knock those out. So yeah, I mean, a solid team by Sven despite the despite the meme and the snipes. So like we'll see. I think he could easily still just like make playoffs with this team. So, hi, next up in 12th, we're moving on, baby. It is the Brooklyn Blastoises. Um, I know, like me and Anna Bunny had a conversation about the name. I think Brooklyn Blastoise just rolls off the tongue a little bit better, but obviously making it plural also makes sense. So hey, let's actually talk about the team itself. So this team, not too bad. Tusk, I think, is the only hazards at all, which is, I mean, it's an extremely reliable rocker, but there are those weeks you're going to be wanting to run like bulk up, rapid spin, dual stab, ice spinner, right? It can't always fit rocks. So, your opponent's going to have a pretty good time just like maybe not worrying about running boots so much, or just bringing like pretty sparse removal. So it's gonna hurt a little bit there. And I also like normal Ditto. I don't understand the point of normal Terra Ditto. Like I understand this team doesn't have like a ghost switch outside of Alolan Muck, but Alolan Muck is like one of the best ghost checks in the game. So I don't really get the point of normal Ditto. You would think you would go like Fairy or Water, which is just kind of the catch-all Terra types. Because if you're transforming into something, I'm assuming that's how Ditto works. Maybe I don't even know how the fuck it works. I'm assuming you can just be that Mon that you've transformed into and then Terra. And then I guess if you switch out and come back in, you would transform into that Terra Mon. I really don't know how Terra Ditto works. But I'm assuming that's how it works. It's just you would just pick your Terra. So that's a little bit weird, but the funny thing too here is that because we have so many like complexes, like this team, you're looking at the stuff like Urshifu Rapid's really good this gen, Thunder's Eye fine, Mega Scizor are cool, a little Muck is good, Great Tusk and Polt are like that's an awesome 2 picks, and I think like in a normal league this would probably be like a top 6 team, but because there's so many like complexes and broken things and it's Nat decks, I don't is this even besides Mega Scizor, obviously, and maybe I guess Alolan Marowak, this is like a Paldea Dex team almost. So like if you just have like regular Scizor, and I don't know if there's a Alolan Muck like equivalent, like this is basically just a PDEX team. So that's why it just leaves it a little bit lower, but it's a good team. I think the rest of the Terras are fine as well. I think Fire AWAC is a little bit weird, but like you know, Rockhead Flare Blitz with Bone Club or whatever. That's still pretty good. Otherwise, I don't have any issues. Maybe Ground Great Tusk might be the play. I don't know. The team's solid, and we're already getting into. Yeah, besides like the first probably 4 teams are like the most like awkward because they were drafting like memes and doing whatever. But basically from this point onward, like depending on who did the PRs, you could see any of these teams being in any spot above this. Like if someone else did PRs like on the side and they're like, I put Brooklyn Blastoises in 6, I'd be like, I could see it. But it's coming down to like personal preference, what I feel with the teams. I'm going back into the preamble again. He's crazy. I do try to like consider the value of them on itself. Like I'm not being like I tried Shifu Rapid once and I didn't like it, so I'm putting this team lower. I really don't do that. I'm assuming like based on the stats of the mon, the types of the mon, the moves they get, that if the coach uses this mon to its full potential, it's adding as much as it brings to the team. So I try not to be biased. Like I can rank a team with mons that I absolutely hate and then in the top 2. Because I'm really just looking at like stats, cohesion, all those kinds of stuff. The one thing I kind of overlook sometimes is just like I look at like Edgequake and Bolt Beam and like Fairy like and Ghost, like some of the obvious stuff. But I don't go like, oh, this team struggles against Ghost types a little bit in this scenario. I'm not gonna be like, oh, like Kyurem with Freeze Dry Earth Power obliterates this team. It's like, of course it does. It obliterates any team. Like, so I'm not gonna look at specific mon matchups. I try to just look at like the very general stuff. Oh, I didn't talk. Sven doesn't have a water type. That was one of the big reasons he's so low. Otherwise, his team's actually like really solid. If he was able to get a water type, he would have been in much better shape, I think, because that just like water types just add a ton of cohesion to a team, whether it's an offensive or defensive water type. So yeah, sorry, Antibody, I just like went on a tangent. I already talked about your team. It's a very good team. I wouldn't want to play this team, but I think it's just going to be a little bit tricky to navigate in this specific meta. So hey, next up in 11th place is Young Jorts and the New Jersey Duskull. All right, we got it. What do I like about this team? I like the priority and the scarf options on this team. Yeah, Palafin priority awesome. Palmont makes a pretty good Scarfer. Garchomp makes a pretty good Scarfer. Arcanine, you have extreme speed. Tauros makes a pretty decent Scarfer. So you have really good options for speed control on this team, and I like that a lot. The main issue with this team and what brings it down quite a bit is Palafin is its strongest special attacker, and in spite of that, he still is in 11th, which is like pretty high for having basically no special attack. You have Arcanine can use like burn up and flamethrower and stuff, but like, Palafin is a legitimate you know, special attacker when it needs to be. It gets Grass Knot, it gets Boom Burst, it gets Ice Beam. Terra Normal Palafin here would have been really funny just for the Boom Burst set. But I understand why he just went with water. That makes a lot more sense. So that's like just that on its own is going to bring this team down. Um, and then also the setup here is a little bit awkward. I mean, you have bulk up Palafin, you have Nasty Plot, A-Tails, which helps with the special attack a bit. I think Palmont can bulk up, Bronzong gets Calm Mind, Nextbot gets Calm Mind, whatever. Garchomp gets Swords Dance, Crobat gets a Nasty Plot. Like I'm listing all these like setups, but none of them are just like really winning the game. Like Swords Dance Garchomp can win a game, and Palafin with bulk up can win a game. But the rest of these are just like you're not gonna bring Calm Mind Bronzong very often. Calm Mind Mega Sableye is surprisingly easy to beat. You need to really just like fumble and let it go. A-Tails, it's like never really gonna hit steel types. And I think steel type A-Tails is a little bit awkward here. I get you're trying to let it live so it can maybe set up a veil and stay alive longer. But I feel like that leaves it in a little bit of an awkward position, in my opinion. Fire Chomp I do get. Fire Chomp is one you bring when you have Open Terra. I don't know about Forever Terra, but I'm sure it still works. I don't really get Dark Crobat just for Psychic types. I don't really get Dragon Serena either. Normal Arcanine and Fighting Tauros are good. So there's just a few things here and there, but the team is obviously super offensive. This is the first team with the bonus of having every type. They're all there. This team's still in 11th, having every type. So hopefully that gives you an idea that can be a difference for like tiebreak and stuff like that, but it's not like boosting you up to oblivion. So yeah, this looks like a fun team. You have Revival Blessing Palmont for Palafin Hero. That's kind of a cool synergy. You have a lot of mons I really like. I love Tauros. I really like Arcanine. I like Sarina. I'm fine with Chomp. I think Palmont's cool. I haven't used it too much this gen. I think I brought it to one game and it didn't touch the field. So there's a lot of mons I like Bronzong a lot. So I like a lot of the mons on the team. I'm not convinced on the cohesion here. And also Arcanine is Morning Sun too. So with Hail and Sarina with Synthesis, there's a little bit of anti synergy with the Hail there. So it's a fun team, a lot of good mons, but I think it suffers from the same thing the last team did. It just doesn't quite fit in this meta, and it's gonna have trouble breaking, especially. So like a good Iron Defense like Body Press set is gonna kind of mess this team up. Besides Sableye, so there's options there. Not a bad team by any means. In 10th, I don't know. Would you want me to script this? Are you kidding me? In 10th place is the Dublin Drapions, coached by Groves. I don't know who Groves is. I don't know if I've spoken to him yet. I forgot. I asked people to rank themselves. But the first one to legitimately do it was Young Jorts. Sven jokingly said first, but actually last. He was neither. He was closer to last. So 13th. He predicted 16th. That's not too far off. And then Young predicted 9th, and he got 11th. So people are actually everyone who submitted like a guess. There's actually within reason. I think within 3 picks or like 3 spots of where they actually were. So people kind of understand where their drafts are, which I think is honestly says a lot and probably means that they're probably gonna do pretty well. Like if you can draft okay and admit that your draft is just okay, like I think that shows kind of an understanding of the meta. to a degree that should help you out in building. Groves did say 12 to 15. He's in 10th, so I'm assuming if I say 12 was his guess, he's in 10th. So overperformed where he expected to be. I think this team, the bulk is I found a little bit awkward with the Sun. I mean, you're not really like need to bring Sun all the time. It's just a Ninetales, and you really only have that for Flutter Mane. But it's gonna makes Rotom's life a little bit awkward. Amoonguss doesn't really want to be in the Sun. It has the Fire Terror type. Iron Treads runs some bulk, but then also in the Sun, and then Mandibuzz and Dragonite. I guess like they don't really care either way. But there's that tiniest bit. It's worth bringing if you do want to bring Ninetales more often than not. And then the hazards aren't really great. You have Iron Treads with rocks, and then you have Heracross with spikes. Pineco does not exist and does not count. I'm sorry, I'm disrespecting it. So you have reliable rocks with treads, and you could get spikes up the Heracross. You don't really want to run it. So that's, it's not terrible. But the speed control is really good. You have Flutter Mane and Iron Treads, which can speed boost. You have Flutter Mane, can do it with the sun, and can do it with an item. You have Azelf, which is good. Good Scarf option. You have Ninetales, which can run Scarf for one. You have E-Speed Dragonite. You get Scarf Heracross. So like this team, really good like speed boosting options. And then you have Terra Normal Dragonite at the end of the day. And you just have E-Speed Dragonite if you're not going to Terra Normal. It still does pretty good chunks with Dragonite base 134 attack. Solid. The offense, there's nothing really to complain about there. I may have had another note here. No, removal is pretty decent. You have Rapid Spin Treads. You have Rapid Spin Pinecoat, doesn't count. You have Defog Rotomosh, easy enough to bring. Defog Random Buzz, easy enough to bring. Even Defog Dragonite if you want to run a bulky set. Bulky Dragonite with boots, it's good. It's a good mod. You'd be surprised, especially in this meta where it can get toxic and all that in that dex. So team's solid. I think there's just a little bit of awkwardness in the cohesion of the team. But I think this is a team where it's like, if you play Flutter Mane right, it's just going to win games. I think Flutter Mane's a little bit like overrated. I don't even think you need to ban Flutter Mane in like Paldea decks. But that's just me. Like you can ban it like just to make things like easier, but I don't think it's like it's so broken you can't allow it. That's just me. So hey, we'll move on. I'm just gonna say it at the end of it. These are all decent teams, right? No one's bad. In 9th place is going to be, you never saw it coming. It's Gareth and the Hamilton Torcats. I told him I was PRing him into oblivion. He actually guessed dead middle, which is 8/9, essentially. And then he is in 9th, so he also was right. So I don't know if he, because like this team is like so scary when you glance at it. You're like, well, look at all these good mons. Like they really like use the Terras, right? And then he matched his draft with Ian in D1. Outside of Bundle is Kartana on Ian's team, which I don't know if that's good or bad. It's a worse speed tier, but at least you have a grass type. So I don't know if Gareth is also underrating his team the way I am, or if he recognizes, I don't know, whatever. So there's no dragon or grass on this team, which is a little bit awkward. It makes switching into water types, special water types, especially like basically impossible. Your only resist is going to be Bundle by default with 60 base Spadef, and then you have like Terra Grass, Overquill, or Terra Water, Avalugg. I feel like Avalug's going to be like weirdly forced to a lot of these battles, and then again, Avalugg only base 36 Spadef, so even if it's resisting that water hit, it's actually like really good that he has Bundle, because Bundle would obliterate this team. You'd be like Protect Blaziken is like your main option for stopping it, and like AV teaming it up maybe. So yeah, the typing is a little bit awkward, but the hazards are good. You have Overquill, you have Mesprit for rocks, you have Swampert for rocks, you have Ting-Tung for rocks, you have like infinite rocks on this team, which is like all you really need. And then you have T-Spikes with Overquill, which is also good. And then I like the Zoroark disguise options on this team. Like, you know, Blaziken is in, but it's a Zoroark. You're like, oh, is he going to protect to get speed, or is he going to break me with physical move? But is it Zoroark? I mean, you have Ursaluna Zoroark, which would be great. You're trying to hit with like a fighting type move. I think it's just overall like there's some good, and there's good pivots overall. There's not like great options for like, oh, I'm gonna give him on Shadow Ball, and have it be the Zoroark target, but then it's really like Mesprit the whole time. I don't know, like that doesn't quite work, and that's not a very like, you know, usable strat. But yeah, I like this team. Apparently Overkill gets spikes too. That's really good. So yeah, hazards on this team are awesome. I think just like the type misses are just Dragon and Grass are tough types to be missing. Like it makes you less weak to ice, which is fine, but like at the same time, this team wasn't too worried about ice to begin with Mega Blaziken and Pinkaton. So, you know, we'll see how it shapes out. But those are the things holding back this team. Otherwise, yeah, there's a lot of good mons that really did use the tiers right, and there's nothing wrong with the Terras. I think all the Terras are pretty good, which is about as much as you can ask. I feel like Tinkaton, you want to go Terra Steel for the Gigaton, but I just kind of like turning into a fairy to still resist those fighting types and stuff that it would normally get booted by, and then just like handling like Tinglu a little bit better because you're not weak to ground. I think that worked out pretty well. All right, we'll just move on. I'm losing steam. I'm doing this in one sitting. Are you crazy? In 8th place, next up is the Atlanta Star Raptors, coached by Austin, aka Zane Freed. I think that must be how you say it, right? So he predicted 10th for himself. He's actually in 8th. So all these middle coaches kind of understood they would be in the middle. Just, honestly, kind of impressive. Um, so the only thing this team is really missing is like deep setup. The offense on this team, as you can see, is out of this world. You have 5 physical attackers, base 110 plus. You have 2 incredible special attackers in Blacephalon and Mega Blastoise. Um, it's pretty broken, like in terms of pure offense. You have like Swords Dance Scolipede. You have built-in setup on Blacephalon. You have Dragon Dance Haxorus, and that's about it. In terms of reliable setup, like Uxie and Rumseys aren't really running Calm Mind. Raichu is barely coming to games to run Nasty Plot. And Swoobat, same thing. I do like the Swoobat pick. It's fun. But the offense, yeah, the offense is crazy. I like the Terra picks. I don't have too many issues with that. I feel like Zama Crown Steel might be a little bit weird, but like just the mega behemoth bastards are gonna be awesome. Obviously, Meowscarada with grass for flower trick is very nice. Yeah, pretty much everything here is totally reasonable. So I can't argue this pretty much at all. And then also I don't remember. Oh, hazards and speeders are pretty good. So 128, 123, 114, 112, 110, 107, and to 97. Like speed tiers are honestly stellar. The only issue, sort of, I think 78 to 95 is just like the little thing where like those base 90s are going to be running like 90 to 90, 94 are going to be running, and Oxy doesn't even run speed really, so like it's really 78 to 97. So those 95s to 80s are going to be running. Sorry, not to 80. Well, I don't know. Does Mega Blastoise run speed? The 90s are going to be running like adamant, which is like nothing. So it's barely worth bringing up. It's just one of those minor things, a little half point here, half point there. So what puts a team like this into 8th rather than like 5th. But team solid overall. I think it's a little bit is. I'm going to keep bringing this up in the meta. Like Zama Crown is questionable to begin with. Some people think it should be allowed in draft all the time, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, even though I think it's still really, really good. And other than that, nothing on this team is like broken. It's just a bunch of good mods. So this team hasn't abused like the usage-based tiers or the allowable mods too much. I think it's just a very well built team. And then screens is going to go pretty crazy on this team as well with like Uxie, and maybe Rumtees can run it. I don't know, but yeah, solid team. So that way in 7th is going to be Psy coaching the Texas Toads Cools. I feel like he should be the Texas Toads Cruels, but then he was in like the Amoga Little Cup division, and he switched to the Toads Cools, and he didn't switch back to the Toads Cools. Is that real? Am I just making shit up? So this team is pretty chill. He said between 6 and 9 for the meme number, and he's 7th, so he actually nailed it, which is hilarious. Here's our second every type. He's got them all, and if I'm wrong, whoopsie, I don't see an ice type. I was wrong. Why did I think he had an ice type? Weird. He had 2 bugs types. Let's count them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Did I give him? I gave him full typing. It wouldn't change where he is. He might have dropped below Austin, but who cares? It's too late now, baby. Whoopsie. Yeah, it's hard to say. Okay, that part's wrong. Whoopsie. But it's a very well-rounded team. I really like the speed control on this team. Like Spectre, easy to scarf. You have Spathro with speed boost. You have E-Speed Arcanine. I think Terra Normal is just way better on Arcanine. Rock is it's funny for like that smash just doing massive damage, but I don't know how much that really adds. You have 2 speed boosts. Second is Yanmega. You have E-Speed Genesect, Mach Punch Conqueror. You have Sandy Shock's Good Scarfer and Mega Absolute Sucker Punch. So speed control out of this world. I think the Terra types I think are one of the biggest drawbacks on this team. I don't like Terra Steel Prim. I don't get the point. Fighting Spec, Fighting Express are fine. Like I said, I think Arcanine should be normal. I don't mind Ghost on Bramble for Shadow Sneak. Obviously, Bug on Onion Mega for Tinted Lens is great. Genesect Water is I think really good for the fire types, of course. And then Conqueror. Normal is okay. I get like stab facade, but like I don't know. I don't know if that's really necessary. But I also get not wanting to go fighting or two fighting types. But for the mock punch, it could be nice. So I honestly the rest of the terror types, the only ones I don't like are Prim and Arcanine. So that's not a huge like drawback. But yeah, I think this team's really good. I think you really could switch this and Austin team around. But I think this team is spooky, and I would not want to play it. It's scary. Look at those offensive stats. Are you kidding me? That's literally the difference. Usually, what I do is I kind of count when I'm counting just like offense as a category. I'm basically looking at mons with either like obviously I count abilities that give them like super big damage like sheer force Nidoking or like Metacham obviously with like pure power, even like sharpness Gallade, but Garlade has over base 110 um, attack. But I look at the offensive stats. If it's base 110 plus or some sort of augmenter on the damage, I count that as like a positive towards the offense. So look at this. We just go down the line. 145 special, 128 special, 115 attack, 115 attack, 116 special, 120 in both stats, 140 attack, 121 special, 150 physical attack, 150 special attack. There's both my hands are wide open. I have 5 and 5. That's insane offense. Out of this world. Like how do you switch into the team? And you have a setup with the Spathra. You have Swords Dance, Mega Absol, built-in setup with Spectre here. It's not the best, but it's there. The only thing is missing is like a Dragon Dancer or a Quiver Dancer or like an Agility Abuser. But like I said, you have built-in setup here. So team very, very, very crazy. Obviously the defense is a little bit lacking. He's Gauchi, Prim. There's basically no defense on this team, but that's fine because you're gonna get like B sweeping. Hey, we're moving on. I always lose steam. This and my art shows just. Whew. Hey, next up, the Atlanta Flamingos in 6th, coached by Cam. The first thing I'll bring up, the removal on this team is very good. You have Talonflame if you need it, but then you have 2 spinners, Glimmora, Blastoise, and then Defog, Rotom Heat if you need it. So extremely good removal, and also the setup on this team is very, very good. You have Valiant, which sets up however it wants. You do have an End Plot Rotom if you need it. Smash Doise, you have Swords Dance up if you need it. You have Swords Dance, Aegislash. I think Autotomize is nixed, so that's a pretty big hit on AG, but I've personally found that the Autotomize set is when you bring once or twice a season. When you're trying to force it, it doesn't work. Dragon Dance, Gyarados, Quiver Dance, Frostmoth, Swords Dance, Talonflame. Insane setup on this team. There's what's my issues with this team? So the speed tiers are a little bit awkward. You have like really fast guys. You have Electrode and Sceptile, which like are eating each other's like rolls up. I don't really like Hishui and Electrode on this team. I kind of get it because like you don't want to bring Mega Sceptile to every like fight, but like you've just like I don't know, you have 2 fast grass types. It's kind of weird. And then like Talonflame to Valiant, and then a big old drop down to 86 with Rotom Heat and Glimmora, which neither would really want to run speed a lot of the time. Gyarados kind of wants to run speed to be able to sweep with Dragon Dance. So big awkward speed tiers here. And then what's my other issue with this team? You don't have good like Scarf options. Obviously, you can run Speed Boost Valiant, but like Scarf Rotom Heat or Scarf Glimmora isn't super useful, and then Scarf Gyarados itself like isn't too common of a bring. You do have really good like priority. You have emergency priority Talonflame. You have Sneak with Aegislash. You have like Aqua Jet with Blastoise if you really need it. So like the speed control is okay, but like the Scarf options are basically non-existent, and that's just inherent to like the weird speed tiers of this team. I mean, you can't just run Scarf Valiant if you want and not worry about the booster, but then you're locked in. So 50-50. But the rest of the team is good enough. I could see other. This is one of the teams I could definitely see people being a little bit surprised with the ranking. But I think it's just got enough going on with it. Where if he plays this team right, it's doing work. But that's usually how PRs work. Somewhere around between like 6 to like 10 to 6 to 11 are almost like always interchangeable because they're just solid teams, right? Like it really just depends on the individual. Doing the rankings. Hey, we're down to 5th place already. In 5th place is the Carioca Crooks, coached by Beery. All right. So the first thing I have to bring up because the dude was getting off to it in chat. Speed tiers are obviously very, very good here. 135, 125, 113, 102, 100, like 91, 80, yeah, like it's 70, 60, 50. Like it's very good. They're not perfect speed tiers, because Tentacruel is a little bit awkward and Furfru isn't coming to games, so you don't like your 100. I mean, you can run max speed Tentacruel, but like then you're running max speed, max HP. Like, what is it really? But that's personal opinion. Like, I didn't give him a 10 on speed tiers, but he has tied for the highest score. So like, I'm like defending myself. Like he's gonna kill me. I'm gonna say it's not the best speed tiers I've ever seen, and he's gonna knock on my door. But it's fine. Otherwise, what were we looking at? So my only concerns on this team really are the bulk and the hazards. You're missing reliable recovery on the bulk. You have superior, which can synthesize in seeds, but Azumarill brings nice bulk. It's not really healing. Tentacruel, it's not really healing. Landorus, it's not really healing. You have Rooskill Watchel. I think Gudra gets Life Dew, which is honestly you can run like Shell Armor, uh, Life Dew, uh, Acid Armor, or Shelter, I guess, if you want, and then like Body Press and either Flash Cannon or Dragon Ball, depending on the matchup, and that can win you a game for sure. I did it last season. I think I got crit because I wasn't Shell Armor. I was Sap Sipper for grass type that didn't come, and I was like, I'm a fool. But yeah, it's a little bit. And then the hazards aren't amazing. You have Toxic Spikes, Tentacruel, and then you have Rocks, Lando, and Rocks Metagross. I don't think Hisui Gudra gets Rocks. I could be wrong, but I don't think it does. Metagross doesn't really want to run Rocks, and then with Landorus having like the Flying type Terra, you're going to be running Scarf Offensive a lot of the time just to make use of that. It's not bad. It's just a concern, right? I'm not saying it's a 6 out of 10. I'm saying it's like a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10, and the rest of the team is like 8 plus. You know what I mean? And then the team is fun. So this is a team. Okay, here's this. This doesn't have to do with the ranking. This is just like me talking about the team, right? This team looks a little bit tricky to use, right? You have a lot of mons with a lot of nuance to them, right? Chien-Pao, obviously it's a physical breaker, but it's like, which priority do you run if you're running priority? Do you bring Sucker? Do you bring Ice Shard? Do you just bring, Icicle Crash or Spinner and Crunch? Do you have room for Sega Sword? Can you run Sword Stance on it? Do you find yourself in a situation where like, oh, if I had Ice Shard, I kill this thing, but I have Sucker Punch instead. Now I lose the game, right? It's tricky. Azumarill, are you running Bandit? Are you running AV? Are you running? Do you think you can get a belly drum off? It's a little bit tough. Chandelure is probably just running like Scarf or Boots. Superior, kind of the same thing. Tentacruel, Hariyama, it's like, do you run bulky AV? Do you try to get the belly drum off for the thing? Landorus, do you run offensive or not? Hishin Gudra gets a million coverage moves. Like, what do you run on it? So I think I mean, from what I've heard and can tell, Beery's like going to be a very good coach. He's well respected by other people who know him as a coach. I don't know, as a person, he's probably a freak. Just kidding. But I think this team looks very tough to use, but in that lies you have a ton of options for building. So like this is a team that well used is just like goes 10-2 and wins a ton of games. And it makes it hard for your opponent to know what you're gonna bring. But if you're bringing like unoptimal stuff, right, you're worse off. But otherwise, team's awesome. You have a little bit of awkwardness with the special attack. Kilowatt doesn't hit super hard. He's using Gudro's running bulk most of the time, so you have Chandelure. And I think that's pretty much the only other thing that is keeping this team down in 5th and not putting it a little bit higher. But I think a lot of fun mons on this team. Then we'll move on. Hopefully this takes me to the right one because I haven't planned this out. In 4th place is the Springfield Stormies, coached by Jeremy. So Jeremy and Beery are the other two PR coaches. They're doing the other divisions. So there's some like camaraderie there, but not really. But it's funny that they're next to each other. I didn't do that on purpose. So also Beery predicted himself in 4th and I gave him 5th. So once again, everyone within reason to where they are, which is funny. So this team has a slight awkward gap in the lower speed tiers. Does it really? What the fuck am I talking about? I guess because Mega Alt is a little bit awkward. No, I don't know. This team's actually fine. Speedster is actually really pretty good. Uh, I guess you just have a gap between Jolteon and Tornai, which isn't that much. But Tornai is hard to bring to matches. It is going to run speed, but and then your fastest mons are kind of special attackers besides Abe. I don't know. Like this team's high up there. I don't have a lot to like neg on it for. You have infinite setup on this team. Let's go through the setup. Mew, all setup in the game. Gliscor can run Swords Dance if it wants. King Gambit can run Swords Dance. Mega Alt gets either Dragon Dance or Cotton Guard. Torn, Nasty Plots, Go Goat, Bulk Ups, Slowking, Calm Mind, or Nasty Plot if it wants. Jolteon, Calm Mind. Nihilego, built-in setup and Meteor Beam. Infernate, Swords Dance, Nasty Plot, Titan, Belly Drum. So infinite setup. The setup is insane on this team. You have speed control setup, you have bulk adding setup, you have breaking setup. It's crazy. But the team also in itself just has good breaking power. So Titan, you can rinse your force, it breaks on its own. Mega Alt with the pixelate very normal moves, deal a ton of damage. King Gambit hitting super hard. And then you have physical and special mixed. You have Nihilego on the special side. So the pure offense isn't as good as the setup, but it's still there in case you're not given the turns. The bulk is great. Mew, Gliscor, Mega Alt, extremely hard to break. Soaking, hard to break. The slight issues with this team that I think leave it in fourth is the defensive pairings. This is one of the teams that I think this was most egregious with. Your only fairy resist is Nihilego, which isn't necessarily that bad, but a lot of fairy types get Psyshock, so there's not a guarantee you're switching into it. You don't really want to switch Nihilego into hits. You can. You run a Black Sludge bulky set, that's fine. So only one fairy resist because your fire and your steel type are paired with dark and fighting. And then also there's only one ghost resist, which is King Gambit, which is one of your main Terra things. So like a Hex set really messes this team up. I mean, you have Slowking, but like Slowking, Mew, Gliscor, just you're running into issues with your bulk. But the bulk on these mons is really good, and you can run enough to not really get too. It's not like, oh, Spectre is just going to 6-0 this team, right? This team has answers to Spectre if it needs it, but it could be a little bit awkward. You know what I mean? So like that's pretty much the only thing keeping this team down. And I like the Terras on this team. I don't think I really the Tornai Electric is awkward. I get it. But like it's a little bit awkward, and I don't get Go Rock. I think it's funny because like you're immune to grass still, and you can hit ground types and water types, but like I don't think that's quite right. I think something's wrong with that. I think you're supposed to go ground on Go Goat. But it's not like how much is that really going to matter? And then the rest are all fine. And Grass Nihilego I think is fine. It can't hit steel types most of the time, but it's not like it gets Terra Blast for the Terra to matter that you want to run like ground on it to hit steel types that you can't hit anyways. So a good team. We'll continue on. In third place, we're getting up there. It is the Kent State Golden Flash Cannons, coached by Zippy. Zippy actually predicted 6th, which is tied for the furthest off anyone was. But 3rd to 6th, still not that bad. I mean, predicted upper half, got upper half. This team is really fun. The first thing I want to point out is like you have 2 web setters, which alleviates the role from either, and you don't know which one's going to bring which. And Slurpuff and Galva are honestly fine enough on their own that they don't even need to bring webs. And then you have webs with Darkrai and Mega Medi, which is just like insane. You have solid removal, kind of. I mean, Cloister can spin, but it's tough to get. And then Charmy's defogging. You don't really want to defog your own hazards, but it's good enough. And then the setup again on this team is also like crazy. You have Skelders built in. You have Darkrai, Dragon Dance Flygon, Sword Dance Flaaffy. What the hell is wrong with me? Slurpuff with Belly Drum and Grafaya can even set up a little bit if it needs to. So the setup is very solid. This is the second, and this is real. Every type team. There was only 2 and not 3. This one is real this time. Let's count them. Just count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and they're all different. Not that does anything, really. Again, I just like to point it out. And then the hazards on this team are just crazy. Grafaya with Toxic Spikes, Skarmory with Rocks and Spikes, 2 Webbers, Cloyster with rocks and spikes doesn't really want to run it. Garg with rocks. Oh, hazards are insane on this team. The only other issue a little bit is the pure offense. The physical offense is definitely lacking outside of Mega Medi. I mean, Garg still hits okay. Flygon, it hits okay. I mean, you have Belly Jump Slurpuff if you need it. And then the pure offense, you just have Darkrai and really Skeldrish for your special attackers, so it's really, really reliant on the setup. But between Mega Medi and Darkrai, it doesn't need a ton of setup. So I think those pair pretty well with each other, I would say. So I think this team, I think, is going to be very matchup dependent. If you're not running into a matchup where you can really like get webs up or smash with Cloyster or whatever, like, that's just how it goes. But like, that's every team. Every team is going to have a bad matchup. Even the best team runs into bad matchups. So as long as you have workarounds to allow yourself to build and break the team that walls you or live hits from the team that runs you over, that's all you really need. So this is a team that I think other people could rank a lot lower, but I like it. It's fun. And so that brings us to second place. Oh, I'm almost done. Release me from should have been dead on a Sunday morning. Bang my head. All right. What's happening? It's loading. It's loading. Oh no. Okay. In second place is the Tentacruel Pirates, coached by DJS. I know DJS from other leagues. He's a good coach. He has a good team. Scary stuff. Another team with amazing hazards. You do have webs. You have Clodsire with all the hazards in the world. You have Quagsire with a couple of the hazards. You basically very reliable setting up of hazards, either any way you see fit. And then this is actually a really good bulk on this team. Zama, legendary built-in bulk. Goldango, really good defensive typing and recover. Vikavolt, actually like to run like bulky roost sets. Arboliva has like grassy train set up for healing. Clodsire, defensive. Sectaka, bulky. Megalodios, bulky. Comfy. Recovery, annoyance. Quagsire, bulky. But then at the same time, look at the special attack stats on this team. You have Chi-Yu, obliterating. Megalodios, obliterating. Vikavolt, Goldango, hard to switch into. The one thing lacking on this team is a little bit more reliable physical breaking, because Stakataka is very niche. I mean, for like, it was 40 points, and Terra Trick Room is going to be like crazy to just like live hits and go ham. But I think if Arboliva, because you already have Swallow as a normal type, I mean, I get Arboliva isn't really that great of a defensive check to ghosts. I mean, it'll help because your normal and your dark type on this team are offensive, so you're not switching into ghost types. But like, whatever. If Arboliva could have been like, honestly, just I looked at the tiers, like there was Breloom and Brute Bonnet for physical grass attackers. So if you could have just pivoted probably to the Brute Bonnet. I mean, you could run like a physical Sun on this team at some point, or it's physical, Jesus Christ, manual Sun on this team, and for like Chi-Yu and a Brute Bonnet, on occasion. And I think that would put this team in first place. It's like pretty much all it's really missing. And the only other thing about this team is the setup is just a little bit awkward. I think Zama can set up a tiny bit, but I don't really count it. You have Goldango, which with nasty plot. You have like Curse Claws, which isn't very good. You do have Calm Mind Latias, that's nice. You have Calm Mind Comfy, which is nice, and you have nasty plot Chi-Yu, but you're missing that like Sword Stance, physical breaker, or Dragon Dancer. Megalodios can Dragon Dance, base 100 attack. It's usable, but this is the setup and the physicality, which are kind of like intertwined with each other, because if you had physical setup, whatever, I think that could have put this team in first place. So hey, if you're watching, this actually, a lot of the people this won't surprise. And I saw this before I did PRs, and I honestly was like, I don't know, like I feel like people are just, I looked at the team and I was like, I don't know, I feel like people are just like freaking out a little bit over nothing. And then I ranked it and I was like, oh, okay, well, and I ranked this one pretty early and it just kind of stayed in first. This is the Midnight Carkle Riders, coached by Latios. I don't really know how to say his name. Or ORN Latios. I don't know. I'm struggling with them. Orn, also a very good coach. I know him in DGS from other leagues. I think they've both been in like Surge and stuff too. But the first thing you got to talk about is the synergy on this team is obviously very good. You have Coco, so with the future Paradox mons, and so you don't need to run Pincurchin, which is a pile of shit. It's a garbage mon. So you have like a perfect enabler for these 3 Iron Mons. The 3 Iron Mons work together with each other pretty well. They're not like sharing weaknesses. The speeds are obviously a little bit jumbled. You have 104, 108, 110, but it's not like the end of the world because that just gives you like speed control. You can pick which ones are getting a speed boost, which ones are getting an offense boost. Um, the speed tiers are awesome. You know, you have the only thing is the jump from 130 to 110, but like that's really hard to abuse anyways. I think a base 125 can't run modest on a 110. And your controller speed anyways, but as that, 110, 108, 100, 95, 85, 76, like, everything else is covered besides that little slight awkward gap. But Coco's controlling speed all on its own. Hazards are great. You have Queen setting up pretty much all of them. Built-in hazards with Hammerot. You have rocks and spikes on Northworm if you really want to run it. Rocks on Blissey if you need it. So very good as well. The only thing here's my like, the only thing is not the perfect team. The reliable bulk is a little bit missing. So Nidoqueen, great bulk keyed. Kern Black, good built-in legendary bulk. Paldean Tauros, it relies on Intimidate. Nidoqueen isn't healing manually. Blissey is a little bit niche just because like a strong physical attacker just blows it out. And then Rotom Frost isn't like it has good Rotom bulk, but it doesn't use it very well with the typing. So there's a little bit of awkwardness with the bulk, and then the reliable removal as well. Not that like as a thing you're stacking hazards, you're not really worrying. You can run boots on a lot of these guys, especially like Jugulus and Moth because you have good enabling with Coco. You don't necessarily need to run booster energy on them, so you just run boots and be fine. But I think it's just like it's Coco and Frost are the defoggers. So depending who you ask, removal, you don't even need to draft it anymore. I disagree, but that's just me. But in spite of that, this team is still in first, so you can't just like come at me and be like you're overrating removal because obviously, this is potentially the worst removal. Not the worst. This is tied for the worst removal in the league. It's like a 6-way tie, but it's still in first. And then the other single thing, which is the synergy of this team out, is kind of what makes up for these things that I'm mentioning that it lacks. Is the setup. It's just a little bit iffy there. I mean, Kyurem is like Hone Claws and Scale Shot. Hammerot can Swords Dance. I don't think Jugulus sets up. Tauros is bulk up. Orthworm gets Curse, I guess. Coco Calm Minds. Iron Moth is like a 50% chance with Fiery Dance. Iron Leaves can Sword Stance and Run Fox can Nasty Plot. So you have like the synergy setup from boosting your stats with the terrain, but the true just like he's Dragon Danced, he's Quiver Danced, I'm lost on the spot. That's like the one thing this team is missing. So if there's like a little bit less synergy or just like one less of any of these categories, this team drops to second, but it doesn't. So there we go, just about an hour in. I'm going to now pop up like the overall table so everyone can see it. It'll be the table I post in the chat as well. I looked at the week 1 schedules. There's nothing too notable. Like it's not like first is playing last for PRs or anything like that. There's just a few notable ones. Is Orn is playing Anna Bunny, so one versus 12. That could be a good opportunity for 12 to beat 1 and kind of establish dominance. 2 plays 8, which isn't anything too crazy. See, Zippy plays Young Jorts, so 3 versus 11. That's a decent jump. And then Jeremy plays Santa Fe Arthur, which is 4v14. So those are like kind of like the notable week 1 matchups where you could see like a low PR seed beating a high PR seed. But at the end of the day, it's all really up to the coaches. I think Zeb and Jed are kind of like the cutoffs of like these teams are approaching dysfunctional. So those are the teams that if they, I won't even say make playoffs, but if those are teams that end up in like the top 4 in standings, I would be very surprised. Everyone else, I mean, if they build and play well, like any of these teams can be top, right? That's kind of how PRs are. It's just these slight nuances in the team structure that I think boost others above others. I didn't think my sentence there. I'll consider doing a halfway PR thing at maybe like 8 weeks in, or 8 weeks in, Jesus Christ, 6 weeks in. It's hard to do like post like battle PRs without just being like this team won a lot, so I'm putting them up higher. So like I'll try to like watch as many. I'll see how I do on like time and watching replays. If I get a good idea of like, well, this coach lost to a bunch of hacks and it was like, you know, they had winning positions or et cetera, et cetera. This team beat like the team I put in 14, 15, 16, but every time they played a one that I ranked higher, they lost to it. So like they're just kind of like beating their matchups. You know, I don't boost them all the way up to second. You know, they may only boost a little bit, stuff like that. I don't know. Here's the part where like, I didn't really think about how to end the video. Thanks for watching. Feel free to like roast me on anything I said. I caught myself on the 10 types on Psy, but if there's anything else where I was like, this team's not very good in setup, and you're like, I have 2 shell smashers, you didn't even mention them. You know, stuff like that. Feel free to either like at me in the Discord or comment on the video. Who cares? It's gonna be a fun season. NCL is a very well run league. Ian does like a fantastic job. Like it's actually insane how much work he puts into like a bullshit like for fun league. Like we're like there's some very good coaches in NCL, but we're not. None of us are like particularly competitive, and none of us are like uploading or like trying to like do anything else really. Like so the amount of effort he puts in for the amount of reward, which is literally just like having a good community, which is obviously a very good reward, but that, you know, like most leagues and servers aren't willing to do that. So I always give props to Ian. It's the best run league I've ever seen and the best run server I've ever seen, at least in Pokemon League stuff, especially how much of it he does on his own. So everyone tell Ian that he's cool. He's a cool guy, and that he's gonna lose week 1. Do whatever else you want. I'm gonna edit this just a little bit, and what's the point of even mentioning that? Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day. Have a great week. Have a great life. I've lost my mind. It's been an hour of talking about Pokemon. Oh God, help! Dog. What's that in the corner? No, it's coming for me. I should edit this out, but I won't. Who's still here? Click on the video. I swear. Jesus Christ. All right. Bye, everybody. Woo.